This figure almost tempts me to bring back Leonard Nimoy.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Suddenly you kissed my wife. Baby, my heart's on fire.
The Titans Return figures are turning up in stores now, and among the first Voyager-class figures is Galvatron with Titanmaster Nucleon. Galvatron was introduced in 1986 with the animated feature film, when Unicron reconstituted Megatron, giving him a new body, voiced in the film by Leonard Nimoy.
I will rip open Ultra Magnus and every other Autobot until the Matrix has been destroyed.
Then in the TV cartoon by Frank Welker.
Ah, Cyclonus, how wonderful to see you again.
So they had Galvatron go from awesome to Dino Mutt. The weird thing is that Frank Welker voiced both Generation 1 Megatron and Galvatron. Why he went with his goofy Scooby-Doo style voice for Galvatron, only he can tell. The Titans Return box is Generation style. For Voyagers, it means a simple rectangular box which shows off the figure in front and some artwork in the lower left. There are views of the box art on the side panels as well, and on the back it shows off studio photograph shots of the robot, the cannon mode, and the spaceship mode. It also shows off the head mode for the Titanmaster and the robot mode as well, as demonstrating how the Titanmaster interacts with the Galvatron figure. With the Combiner Wars, you would get views of the Combiner and all of their components on this panel. For Titans Return, we are shown which classes of figure are compatible for the Titanmaster to be used with as a head, though they do list other figures that they would like for you to buy. Well, of course they do. Well, now that you know what the box looks like, perhaps we should open the box and review Galvatron properly. And here is Titans Return Voyager Galvatron out of box and in his cannon mode. Most triple changers suffer from having the addition of the third mode. The engineering required to have the extra transformation usually means that quality and stability are sucked out of the other two modes, leaving all three modes feeling somehow incomplete. Galvatron's cannon mode is a tribute to his G1 self, which also turned into a cannon, though as can be seen, the cannon mode looked very little like the movie animation model. Titans Return has done slightly better. The tripod struts are stable, allowing the cannon to be tilted either up or down, while still remaining relatively stable. The funky fin on the back of the cannon is in place, along with the decorative gray rear of the cannon. The treads on the tripod struts are purely decorative. They don't even have any wheels built into them, so all you can do is slide the cannon around and imagine that the treads are real. Very quaint. Overall, the cannon mode looks alright. The exceptions are this dongly thing at the base of the banana gun. It just feels like they could have done something more to hide that. Also, the cockpit of the spaceship mode is hanging rather obviously below the cannon. The instructions have you folding pieces of it to resemble an additional support strut, but let's face it, they're not fooling anyone. And then there are the back panels of the robot leg, which are also kind of obvious, but at least they peg securely into the shins, so they don't flop around, and they are flat enough that you can almost overlook them. Almost. To transform from his cannon mode to a spaceship, first flip out these panels from the side of the cannon and remove the cannon itself. You may then rotate the spaceship cockpit forward and up until it locks into place. Unpeg this support strut from the back of the canopy and fold it down so that it clamps into place over the purple decorative fin. Unpeg the rear sections of the cannon and fold the legs backwards like so. Rotate the side panels forward thusly on both sides. Rotate the tripod struts so that they are facing backwards. Then fold the treads forward beneath the arm section. Rotate these side panels back so that they are clamped against the spaceship canopy. You will see a sort of double hinge inside the leg panel section. Fold it down so that it is locked up against this ridge of plastic here. And here is where the triple changer weakness comes into play. You fold the leg forward so that this tiny ridge locks in over this small tab at the end of the arm/engine. Make sure that the feet sections of the legs are folded backwards thusly. Take the banana gun. Fold this section forwards like thus until it locks into place, and then fold the kibble section at the back backwards until it is clamped like so. You will see a peg hole on the inside of the spaceship canopy. Plug the banana gun into that hole to fill the empty space and complete the spaceship mode. And here is Galvatron as a spaceship. While the ship holds together well and has a somewhat pleasing aesthetic, it's spoiled by the tacked-on feel of it. While many of the parts do kind of stack together well, it's not very neat. The forearms and tripod treads only vaguely resemble landing gear or engine thrusters. Without the banana gun plugged into it, the cockpit section is mostly hollow. The cannon juts out really far and kind of overbalances the spaceship aesthetic. The fin on the back has a tendency to flop loose all the time, and it just doesn't hold in place very well. And you can really tell that the legs are just legs that have been folded into a shape meant to resemble twin engines. But there is an opening cockpit that can seat the included Titanmaster figure. Simply take your little Titanmaster and fold it into a seated position, then tuck him into the cockpit like so. See? It's an advanced prototype fighter. A few things should be said about the little Titanmaster figure. The head has seemingly been molded into a shape that is vaguely like Generation 1 Megatron. For articulation, it can bend forward at the thighs and also bend at the knees. They even seem to have included some limited arm articulation. There are no elbows or fists, but the shoulders will splay slightly inwards and outwards, unlike some of the other figures that they have done in the past. To transform from ship to robot, begin by removing the banana gun from the base of the cockpit. Flip up the decorative fin from the back. Unhook the legs from their slots and sides. Flip the feet forward. With the legs in this position, you may accordion the shins upward until they click into place. It is then possible to use these back flaps for their actual intended purpose and close them behind the shins to form a complete leg. Rotate the engine sections out of the way. Flip this fin down so that the waist may rotate freely. Then rotate the waist so that the pelvis is facing forward. Make sure that these little flappy bits at the hips have been pointed downwards. Once the waist has been rotated, flip this back panel upwards so that it is lying flush against the back. You may now see that the starship is mostly robot already. Take the starship cockpit and fold it backwards so that it is also lying flush against the back. Rotate and lock down this tripod support strut dongly thingy so that it is lying flush against the cockpit. You may leave these tread sections in their place. Unhook the arm sections which peg together thusly and rotate them downwards to form the arms. You may then rotate these sections downwards. Flip the hands out from the forearm sections to complete the arms, and flip down these side panels to form the shoulder pads. Take the little Titanmaster figure, fold the arms down so that they are lying flush to his sides, then fold him in half, which will form the head of Galvatron. You will see that this wider section here corresponds like a keyhole to the Titanmaster figure. Make sure that the wide section here is rotated to face the wide section in the peg hole. Plug them together, and you may rotate the head so that it is facing forwards. No alterations are necessary for the banana gun. It simply plugs into a peg hole on the arm piece. And here is Galvatron in his robot mode. This is the strongest of his modes, and obviously the foundation on which all of the other modes were so crudely laid. The Generation 1 toy Galvatron looked almost nothing like the movie animation model, but Titans Return Galvatron seems to have captured his essence fairly well. The colors also much better match the animation model. Galvatron is set off with deep blues on top of light and dark grays, with some reddish highlights on the kneecaps and on his four-pack abs. The figure feels quite solid and stable, and the only fairly obvious kibble from the other modes is the spaceship cockpit now slung onto his back, and the tripod treads on the backs of his arms. Despite being hollow, the shins and legs feel quite stable, looking very much like the funky boots that Galvatron sported in his Generation 1 animated counterpart. You may flip the shoulder pads up and down if you wish to kind of imitate what the Generation 1 figure had, or leave them flush to the shoulders. In pride of place is the banana gun, looking very Generation 1. It can be attached to either arm by plugging it into these peg holes on the biceps. The head is a weak point, looking rather monochrome and flat. You may open up the chest of the Galvatron figure and unleash a spring-up crown faceplate thingy to snap over the face and make it look more like his cartoon counterpart. Sadly, though, it does not clip into place. The head just kind of leans into the faceplate, into this hole here, with some rather ugly gaps. And once the faceplate has been flipped up, it robs the head of any articulation. Speaking of which, without the faceplate up, Galvatron's head will rotate 360 degrees, and also tilts slightly up and down for a decent amount of posing. Both shoulders will rotate fully in their sockets and also splay up and down on a ratcheted joint. If you push the shoulder pads out of the way first, that is. There are also bicep swivels, a double-jointed elbow, and a flip in and out wrist as part of the transformation. The waist will rotate 360 degrees, but you must rotate these pieces and kibble out of the way in the back first, before it will give you enough clearance to allow the rotation. The hips will rotate fully forwards and backwards, and also splay in and out. They are not ratcheted, but the joints feel firm enough that you can pose the figure with splayed legs without worrying about it collapsing and falling over. There are upper thigh rotations. The knees will bend 90 degrees. The feet will tilt slightly forwards and backwards, and also slightly in and out. All told, the figure has very strong posability. You will have to rotate the shoulder pads out of the way in order to allow him to raise his gun, but it's not overly glaring. The only real drawbacks are the weak faceplate and the kibble on the back. For size comparison, here is Titans Return Voyager Galvatron next to Deluxe Generations Scourge. Here is Voyager Galvatron next to Thrilling 30's Voyager Springer. And here is Voyager Galvatron next to Cybernetic Perry the Platypus. The Titans Return figures that have come out recently seem to have put an excellent foot forward for this line. Voyager Galvatron in particular seems to be well worth the price. Positive aspects include excellent colors and detailing, faithfulness to his Generation 1 cartoon mode, a strong robot mode, and excellent posability. Negative aspects include some kibble in almost every mode, a not-so-effective robot spring-up face, and alternative modes that seem halfway decent, but only halfway. I give Voyager Galvatron 8 out of 10 deaths.
This is bad comedy.
Hey!
If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone, oh baby. Tell them all and tell me I'm your own.